past all of them as well. What a move to the 48. Oh, look at this, and onto the straight they come.
Brilliant move there from the number 40 to make it through. That left-hander sliding up the inside, going up now over Hawthorne Hill, down Pilgrim's Drop, and it's brilliant stuff here at Brands Hatch.
We are back once again on a Monday evening with week number 3, rounds number 5 and 6 of the World GT Championship here on RaceSpotTV. Pleasure to have you all along here joining us. It's myself, Paul Smith, and Ron Mounds on commentary. Welcome back, Ron, after stepping aside for last week. But, well, Silverstone, 2 45-minute races. We should have a good race here today. That's if we could hear Ron, unfortunately. Hopefully that works.
Unmute your mics, everybody, but we're going to have 2 good races here at Silverstone today. Really looking forward to this Monday. Not only am I not sick as a dog like I was last Monday, which shook me out last week's broadcast, but we've just got some great GT3 racing action to look forward to here today. Silverstone, it's a wonderful track. You know, Paul, I think you may be a little bit biased in this regard since you are a Brit, but Silverstone, just an absolutely wonderful ride in the world of motorsports. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what these drivers can do around here.
Yeah, absolutely. As we look at the schedule for this week, we have changed slightly for today. So we were at Nürburgring to start the season, Bathurst last time out, and then today is one of the feature rounds, 2 45-minute races. It's not the international layout, it is actually the full Grand Prix layout here today at Silverstone. Interlagos then is coming up after a week's break with Sebring and Hockenheim to take us to the halfway point of the season. Monza, Road Atlanta and Watkins Glen is the third quarter of the season before we finish off in Europe with Imola, Spa and the Red Bull Ring to finish off the season. And well, what a season it's been in the opening. Ross McFarlane, 5-point lead in the pro standings for the WSR Esports Butt Kicker driver, ahead of Dina Lombardi, the Grid and Go Esports driver. Anders Meyer, third place, just 2 points ahead of, well, he's on my end anyway, it's more than 2 points. It's 22 points ahead of Jack Sedgwick, then in third place and fourth place respectively. Alessio Bonino, Aidan Young, Michael Avdoka, Adam State, Alex Cohen and James Boumet rounds out the top 10. Just 81 points separate the top 10 in Pro. In Pro-Am, it is 8 points that separate Adam Watson for the Altitude Esports by SimStickers team and Paul Webster in the Full Tilt Motorsport car. And Nikolai Agard is looking for another good result here today. Third place in Pro-Am with Joe Newman in fourth ahead of Dan Blackwell, Jack Osborne, Will Guthrie, Chris Chatterton, Richard Simner and Josh Boot. In Am, it's Kristada Thasang. Good start to the season for them in the Racing Lab Esports car. They're 18 points clear of Aidan Carter in the Onid Racing car. Then it's Ben Altria in third ahead of the Cameron de Bastos. Then Luca Monroe ahead of Simon Andre Livingston, Janeman Pruis and Stephen Koenig, with Dan McCauley and Jack London rounding out the AM standings. In your Pro Teams Championships, 46 points separate WSR Esports Butt Kicker from 07 Racing, with WSR Next Level Racing in third place. Racing Lab Esports Ford fourth ahead of Altitude Esports by 3M fifth. Atomic Esports sixth ahead of Full Tilt Motorsport. Altitude Esports by SimStickers, Hyperion Racing and WSR Esports Abruzzi round out the 10 pro teams. In AM, well, it's Prasanda Nomad who lead that one by 60 points over Racing Lab Esports, but they're just 2 points ahead of Altitude Esports by Mr. Hedge. Team Heap Together and Ominous Gaming, they are in fourth ahead of DCW Racing Blue, Full Tilt Racing, Series 1 Racing, Full Tilt Competition and DCW Racing Yellow round out the 9 Pro-Am teams. We are in the early stages of the championship. No drop scores into play yet. That will come in a few weeks' time. But Ron, qualifying, we're coming to the end of it. We're into the last minute and a quarter of qualifying here. And Alex Davidson in that Porsche, last season's champion, looking strong here today.
Yeah, he's got the number one on that car for a very good reason. Certainly showing number one pace as it stands at the moment. Sharing that front row currently with Dino Lombardi, but let's see. These drivers still have a little bit of time left to go in this qualifying session. It's not worlds of time, but just enough to sneak across that line, get yourself a little bit more time, and who knows, maybe just have a big improvement as you jump your way up to the front. 53 cars here today in this round of the championship, 2 45-minute races with a pit stop. We're not expecting any weather affecting this first race. It is completely clear of the conditions. Whether it'll be that way for race number 2, we don't know yet. But if it's anything like the Nürburgring, we could be in for a heck of a ride for the second race of the evening as well. I'll tell you what, thinking back to that race at the Nürburgring a couple of weeks ago, that was absolutely mighty. And bearing in mind, folks, to those tuning into this broadcast right now, that was my first ever broadcast to be a part of here from the World GT Championship. Just my second race. We had the rain, we had the full field invert. There was so much playing against these drivers, and yet some of them still made it to the checkered flag, which I think was a pretty amazing feat in the grand scheme of things. But that was one heck of an introduction for me to this series. So I have a feeling that Silverstone maybe not going to be as hectic as it was at the Nürburgring 2 weeks ago, but we're still in for a good one. This track, it's just a classic, so I think we're gonna have some fun.
Dino Lombardi coming to the line. Can he improve his time? The answer is no, he can't. So that pretty much sorts that one. Ola Daniel, though, gets up into 8th place, right there at the death of qualifying, and I believe that is the last of our drivers to set a lap time. We have got a little bit of time to kill before the first race of the evening here as things count down in the overrun. What are we expecting then, Ron? Because it is a nice wide open Grand Prix circuit, fast track with a tight and twisty opening sector to it.
You know, I am very happy that you brought up that tight and twisty opening sector, because that is going to be such a detriment to these drivers at the very start of the race. Heading through turns number 1, 2, 3, and 4 under racing conditions for the first time when that green flag drops in both of these races, that's going to be a rather terrifying prospect for these drivers. I think just having a very clean start to the race, to finish first you have to finish. I've read that in a fortune cookie before because it really speaks volumes about what you got to do in a race like this. Just keep it clean and you're going to be golden.
You certainly are. And do you know what? It's been many years since we got this layout of Silverstone. 2011 was when we got this. No, 2010, sorry, we did get the first version of this layout of Silverstone. And I still, even though I've been watching motorsport taking place at Silverstone for pretty much my entire life, so I can remember the old Silverstone before we got Beckett's sweeping section. I still can't remember all the corner names for the new part of the track, and it's been close to, what, 12 years?
I mean, I can't necessarily blame you, Paul. I rarely, if ever, know where my keys are at any given time, so I can't judge you at all there. I mean, this track, this layout that we have is, it was a rather big change when it came about, because it moved the area where the pit lane is where it is at the moment. This just used to be the back straightaway, the run of Woodcote and Copse. That used to be where the old pit lane was up until 2011. And even just the track layout change itself. I remember running on the old version of Silverstone on Forza Motorsport 4 back in the day. I remember driving around this version of Silverstone a couple of years ago in the F1 games. It's just such a big contrast, but the one we've got today, it's got to be a fun one.
Well, let's take you through your 53 starters then here for this opening race of the World GT Championship. It's Alex Davidson and Dino Lombardi sharing the front row of the grid with Lorenzo Castellani and Michael Evdoka on row number 2. Row 3 for Anders Meyer and Alex Cohen, with Eric Rousseff and Ola Daniel fourth row of the grid, with Alessio Bonino and Adam State sharing row number 5. Row 6 for David Baker and Bobby Thompson. The 7th row for Jack Sedgwick, another former champion on the grid, with Aidan Young alongside him. Adam Watson, your Pro-Am Championship leader, starting alongside a Pro-Am competitor of Joe Newman, Nikolai Gard and Tim Perry, rounding out row number 9. Row 10 for Will Guthrie and Lewis Ward, with Richard Simner and Adam Tompkins on the 11th row. Jack Osborne and Michael Gray sharing row number 12. It's 13th row for Alessandro Toccio, with Josh Boot alongside him. Phil Samways and Paul Webster then sharing row number 14, with the 15th row Dan Blackwell and the first of our AM drivers there, which was Dan McCauley. Andy Shield then on the 16th row of the grid with Leo Tregurtha. Simon Andre Livingston and Taylor Lane then on the next row of the grid with Christander Thasang and Aidan Carter. Paddy Faulkner and Jonathan Walker share row number 19, with the 20th row of David Vey and Alex Schmidt. Jesse Payne-Wilkins and Ben Gregory then share row number 21, with the 22nd row of Alistair Pollock and Adam Hedgecock. Luca Monroe and Jan Van Pruis, with Cameron De Bastos and Stephen Koenig. Final few drivers, it's row 25 for Chris Chatterton and Andy Jones, Tom Stanley, Ben Altria and Jack London. Your 53 cars to the grid, although I do believe we are missing Paddy Faulkner from the start of this race. Ron, as the pacing gets underway, it's a good race for Alex Davidson, but it could be a good one for Dino Lombardi as well.
Yeah, Lombardi looking to have a good one here at Silverstone. I think he has a really good shot to do. It certainly showed the pace, but with it, we got 45-minute race in front of us. Pace doesn't mean anything. You just need to be there at the end. Let's see if he can do well.
Lovely track conditions for them as well, nice and cool, so they'll be able to push their tyres a bit more. Well, get yourselves strapped in and set for round number 5 of season 17 of the World GT Championship here on RaceSpotTV. And Alex Davidson gets going early. The green flag's in the air. We're underway for 45 minutes of action as they head towards Abbey for the first time, flying through the quick right-hander. Then farm curve before they hit the brakes for Village for the first time. This is the first opportunity for any big moves to be made as they go through Village into the loop, and then Aintree before they head down the Wellington Straight. Bobby Thompson's around. Bobby Thompson's turned around right in the middle of the pack. And credit to him, he gets out of the way and everybody else avoids him. That's good heads-up driving.
That is a Christmas miracle for those drivers. That's coming in February. That was insane. So we see another car going off. That's one of the Sim Racing Norway Mustangs, I believe. So that's an off-track moment for them. I have to take a look at a replay in the not-too-distant future to see what happened there. But a little bit of a hectic start. Not as hectic as I was really expecting, though, Paul, considering the tight, twisty nature of that first section of the corners.
That was our AM Championship leader, Chrysanda Fasang, who had that incident into the wall on the exit of Aintree. So back to the pits for them, and they'll be taking their fast repair. Simon Andre Livingston has had issues out there on this opening lap as well. Through this magnificent Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel section of the track then, and on to the Hangar Straight. Important to carry the speed out of Chapel Corner onto the Hangar Straight for the first time here, and you just see that snake of GT3 machinery coming down the Hangar Straight.
It is just absolutely endless. It's like a line of Tic Tacs on a treadmill, seeing them run down onto the back straightaway right now. You can see some drivers trying to go for some moves and some passes in the grass. A little bit farther in the back, some lawn mowing in a Porsche, but these drivers trying to get a good exit onto the Hangar straightaway for the first time to complete this first lap in style.
Yeah, it was the Chrysanda Nomad car then that was making moves on the grass, making moves around the outside of the exit of Club Corner. Lewis Ward then for Series 1 Racing, coming through the right-hander, and that's more drama further down. That's the 147 Cameron de Bastos then, one of our new drivers this series, this season, and he's gone off at the final corner.
Yeah, that was heading through the final chicane, which is oh so tough. That section feels about as clunky as falling down a flight of stairs while duct taped to a bunch of radio antennas. I don't know what I'm saying here, but it's really clunky heading through that final section as we see Simon Andre and Livingston have an off-track moment heading onto that start-finish straightaway coming out of Club, as we see some more replays of the drama at the very start. Bobby Thompson involved in the spin, the number 19 car, but that final chicane just feels so clunky to drive around. It's really tough in these cars.
Bobby Thompson showing off his professional driving there, as there's what's happened to Chrysanda Fasang. By the way, on the live side of things, David Vey and Leo Tregurtho have had an incident. Cameron de Bastos helped around here at Club Corner, and that's going to be suboptimal for them. Here's Leo Tregurtho getting turned by one of the Mustangs, and bang, clattering into a few of your cars there. It's been chaos in the mid-pack there. Dan Blackwell has got a mechanical meatball warning flag, so Dan is heading back to pit lane as well. He was one of those drivers involved there. David Vey, absolutely nowhere to go in all of that.
Yeah, Vey just caught up in all of that chaos. He got hit from the front, then he got hit from the back, then he got hit from the side, spun around, and I think he got hit like 3 or 4 times in the span of about 3 or 4 seconds. But as we go back to live action and see some side-by-side racing all throughout this field, and more contact being made.
That's the DCW Racing driver of Richard Simner around. Oh my goodness, it's all happening here at the start of this race, as here's a look then, and that Mustang just gets caught by the Porsche, and around he goes, as we'll carry on then with live pictures. I can tell you a few of your big movers in the field, as even more cars are having issues out there. Some of your big movers, Chris Chatterton's up 14 places, Tom Stanley 12, Jack London 13. I know he's got a big fan club in the YouTube comments as well. Alex Schmidt up 9 places, the former VLN and Nürburgring Langstrasse driver.
Really, at this early stage of the race, Paul, you've got 3 different drivers. You got the ones who haven't really shuffled, gained or lost out on any spots, but they've got a clean race car. Meanwhile, you've got some of the other drivers who have cut their way through the field like a hot knife through butter, and others who have a damaged race car. They got involved in an incident and they've dropped down the running order like an anvil dropped out of a helicopter. So you got 3 separate drivers thus far in this race, 3 different kinds of drivers in this massive pack of race cars.
As we look at Adam's State, then look at the focus and concentration on that face right there. Wearing the team kit as well for the WSR Esports team as he comes down the hangar straight into Stir Corner. And a lot of these drivers now running direct drive wheels, and you can see the effort that some of them have to make into using that equipment.
Yeah, you can see the upper body strength required to try and wheel these race cars around the track in iRacing. I gotta say, I am usually a little bit jealous of some of the sim rigs that these drivers have whenever we get a chance to see their perspectives in the sim. My sim rig, I don't show it off very often, and there's a good reason why that's the case. My sim rig looks like 2 playing cards with a toothpick in between. It looks so unbelievably bad. I can't even go full throttle in it because the sensor's broken, so it will just flutter the throttle whenever I get to full throttle. So I am very envious of some of the sim rigs that these drivers have.
I don't even have a rig. It's a wheel clamped to a desk. Taylor Lane, here's another one of your drivers. Triple screen monitor setup for him. And Taylor doing well in his Porsche, moving through the field. 5 places gained up to 29th for him. And he's looking at the back then of Dan McCauley in that Mustang. That Mustang that got caught up in that incident on the exit of this very corner here of Luffield. Very tricky to get right. Some, they like to hug the inside line of that corner all the way around, whereas others, they like to take 2 apexes and V their way through Luffield. It depends how you're feeling as to what works for you.
Yeah, this may be a cardinal sin of a comparison. However, I will still make it anyway. That corner kind of feels like it feels like a dirt oval corner or something like that. You just take so many different lines going through there. It all depends on your comfort and just like how you've driven around that corner for as long as some of these drivers have been driving virtual race cars online. That's the sort of thing that you see every single time Silverstone is part of a series calendar. You get to see the different lines and the different ways that these drivers attack this track.
Yeah, man, Bruce, another one of our drivers out there giving us a view and finding time to enjoy, calm his nerves, shall we say, down the hangar straight in towards the right-hander at Stowe. So yeah, man, keeping focused. Meanwhile, keeping focused here through Abbey and then into the left-hander. Will Guthrie fighting away. Aidan Young, Adam Watson with around him. So too is Joe Newman behind as well. And that's Aidan Young down the inside and, well, trying to follow him through there is Joe Newman in that Pro-Am Mustang. Trying to work his way down the Wellington Straight now, and there's a little bit of door banging down there. There's not a lot of love lost between Guthrie and Newman.
Yeah, and you can certainly see that got put on full display right now. The Porsche and the Mustang side by side now. There's a little bit of smoke up in the air. I think there may have been an incident right in front of these drivers, but nevertheless, still side by side, heading through turn number 7 of Luffield onto that old pitch straightaway. Let's see who's going to back out of this. It's going to be the Porsche. That's a smart call, because side by side into cops is usually going to end in tears.
Through cops then, and this is what's happened. Alex Cohen, he was up there up in the top 10, has a spin through Brooklands then, carrying a little bit too much speed through that corner. Back end did not want to comply, and around he goes in that car. So Cohen dropping down the order to 13th in that Acura NSX. Very popular car is this Acura right now. It seems to be the it car for many drivers in GT3, doesn't it?
And here's a real question, though, Paul. It definitely is the popular one right now. But the real question is it popular because it's new, or is it popular because it's quick? We've seen some very fast drivers run in that Acura already, but I gotta wonder whether it's the hype of having a brand new car or whether or not it is just the car of choice for these drivers here in Season 1 of 2025 on iRacing.
I can tell you, a teammate of mine for Cracked Racing, he was saying that it's certainly quick, but it's rather numb and boring for him. So he won't race it because he'd just be bored in the races. So I don't know. Would you rather be bored and winning, or having fun and in the mid pack? I know what I would rather have.
That is a very good question that you raised there, Paul. It's like, I mean, being excited in a very fast car in the midfield, it's very fun. Don't get me wrong. It kind of feels like you're getting shot at by someone holding a long rifle, but you know, it's still fun. I gotta say, from my personal experience using my time in the sim and also using some of my real life racing experience as well, it's always fun to drive a slow car fast rather than a fast car slow. So I feel like running in a car that's maybe a bit more skittish, you may not be going as fast, but you feel like you're going fast. That's my ideal day in the sim, Paul. That's just my opinion, though.
Can't say I've ever been shot at by somebody with a wrong rifle. So.
It's because I live in the city of Philadelphia. That's why.
Ah, well, yeah. Especially after yesterday, that is for sure.
Go Sports. I don't know what we did yesterday. Well, Go Sports.
The city of Philadelphia know how to celebrate. Let's just put it like that. Anders Meyer's got ahead of Michael Evdoka. That's up into 4th place now for the Racing Lab Esports driver. So that Mustang, they've really taken to that Mustang of Racing Lab Esports, and Anders in particular seems to really have got to the hang of that car. It took him a little while to do so, but he really seems to be enjoying himself in 4th place.
I gotta say one thing, talking about the Racing Lab Esports team and their affinity for the Mustang, I can't necessarily say I'm too surprised. A couple of, I'm trying to think now, I think it was throughout the mid to late part of 2023, I covered some of the other Racing Lab drivers, and a lot of them gravitated towards the old BMW. So maybe a little bit of causation going on there.
Aiden Young is at a standstill out there right now. I can see on my track map, so he's had drama out there at Village Corner, I do believe it was. So here's a replay, and that rather long bonnet of the Atomic Esports Mustang getting into the rear of Aiden Young. And yeah, Aiden, he had earned that corner. That Mustang was not far enough alongside to warrant some space, and well, 2 into 1 just does not go.
Yeah, that it certainly does not. That section of the racetrack, it feels like a street circuit, despite the fact the track is so wide. You're just constantly turning, heading around that track. You go from one corner to another, to another, to another, and your tires are just screeching in agony by the time you come out of that section. So going side by side into that part of the track, not really a recipe for success. I think we saw that got put on full display with that Young incident.
As we carry on looking throughout the field there, plenty going on. It's not really happening that much up at the front. Davidson and Lombardi are still about half a second between them, but we look further back at Lewis Ward then, down in 16th place. He's got Will Guthrie ahead of him, Joe Newman ahead of Will. He's also got behind him Nikolai Agard, who's not been able to move forward in this race, and we're reaching that point of the race now where you can pit and make it to the end of the race with 1 pit stop. You don't want to be carrying all that fuel though, do you, for the rest of the race?
Yeah, that's the real trade-off when it comes to the pitch strategy call that these drivers have to take. Do you come in a little bit earlier on, get that pit stop taken care of so it's not riding in the back of your mind between now and the checkered flag, but have that sacrifice of having to take more fuel, have a longer run into the pits, which it may equate to about the same in terms of drivers coming into the pits. However, the mind frame that a driver finds themselves in when they have something like that go on can really make a difference. As we see Jesse Payne Wilkins in the 355 car, that's a spin, another Acura going around. I'm not sure whether they had some assistance and all that or what. Getting back to the point I was going to mention, talking about the pitch strategy, it's a trade-off. You know, you can have these drivers that decide to get that pit stop done, dusted out of the way well before the halfway mark, and then you have the other side of it with drivers that try and stretch it out a little bit. They have to think of those pit stops for an extended period of time, but they spend so much shorter time down into the pit lane. If it were me personally, I would maybe lean towards like the mid mark of this race, because having those late race pit stops as well doesn't give you a lot of time to get back into the groove of things once you rejoin the racetrack. So there's definitely the pros and cons to the different strategies. I'm sure all these drivers are weighing up those in their head.
I think if you're at the front, you're more inclined to go as long as possible for these strategy plays and to keep going. I mean, Gino Lombardi is staying within that sort of half a second margin. He's going to be doing a lot of fuel saving with that Acura right now. But being in the slipstream of Alex Davidson, being able to lift and coast into some of the heavier braking zones, so he's saving that fuel. That could be all the difference that he needs to be able to jump and take the lead at the pit stop phase.
Yeah, I gotta say one thing as well, talking about the draft that Dino Lombardi is getting, that better fuel mileage that he's probably getting as well in that number 78 car. He's following Davidson, who's in a Porsche, that number 1 Porsche at the front. I can't say the Porsche is a massive, just giant chunk of a race car, but it's not microscopic. It's not a small little insect buzzing around the track. So I can imagine that Lombardi, he's not getting the best fuel mileage in the world, but I gotta imagine he's getting some okay mileage behind Davidson. So I think you're exactly right there, Paul. Lombardi may find himself in the catbird seat.
I can tell you now that these GT3 machinery, when you look at them on a racetrack, they don't look that big, but when you stand next to them, they've got some width about them. You know, there's a lot of aerodynamic devices. Or in the case of the Mustang, you're just big. Just big.
Big boy.
And it shows with some of these cars, the size difference. I mean, I was fortunate enough a couple of years ago to go to Monza to cover the 12 hours of Monza in the 24-hour series, and being in pit road whilst with these cars coming up next to you, whilst you're reporting on them, they are big machines. They're not small little sort of radicals or things like that. They are big machines, all things considered.
I gotta say, kind of talking about the size of real-life race cars, one thing that always surprised me when I got an opportunity to be around one and actually sit in one back in 2020 was the size of an LMP3. I got to sit in a DuQuoin LMP3 car that was fielded by 47 Motorsports in IMSA. But I believe at that point in time we're still running in what used to be the Prototype Challenge, what I believe is now the VP Racing Fuels Sports Car Challenge. I need to get my IMSA series name correct there, but I remember sitting in that car and just getting a chance to see it, and bearing in mind it didn't have all the body work on it. It was still being constructed, but the size of those cars is a little bit surprising. It felt small when I got a chance to see them, but race cars, it has that very odd ability to, you never can really tell how big or small they are until you get a chance to see them in real life.
If you ever get the chance to see the comparison of a modern day F1 car compared to a car from even the early 90s, the size difference is vast, I can tell you. We're not really checked in with a few of the other classes in terms of letting you know where people stand right now, so let's give you a little bit of a rundown as things stand. Adam Watson is leading Pro-Am right now. He has got one car between him and Joe Newman. That's 12th and 14th places respectively. Will Guthrie in 15th place overall, but 3rd place in class. We've been keeping an eye on Will in that battle further down in your mid-pack. Your top Am, and I'm having to go down the page here quite a bit, I must say. I do believe it's Dan McCauley in 30th place, who's your leading Am driver. The 2nd place Am driver is, for his 17th season, he's competed in every season of the championship, Ben Gregory is in 2nd place in class, 34th overall, ahead of Jack London, who's 3rd in class, 35th overall. And that is what's happened in Am to Luca Monroe.
Yeah, and that is a spin at the end of the Wellington straightaway, heading down into Brooklands of turn number 6. An easy corner to have an off-track excursion at, because that corner just so hard to try and psych out. It feels like it's decreasing in radius and increasing in radius at the same time, but either way, simple spin from Monroe, that's going to cost him a little bit of time. But I will say, as we're following Luca Monroe, that's, I believe, is that a Charizard? I was never really too into Pokemon as a kid, but I think my knowledge may not be entirely inaccurate there as we see the driver, the number 56 car.
Got to catch them all as Luca Monroe comes down the hangar straight, as drivers coming down the Sir Lewis Hamilton straight pit lane right now, getting their pit stops done. So Paul Webster's been in, just come out. Aidan Young's just come out of the pits as well. Andy Jones, Aidan Carter, Cameron DeBastos, Luca Monroe himself. Good timing actually to come down to pit road. You just had a spin. It's the best time to come on the pit road and just try and get your tyres cooled down there. So definitely a good time to head to pit road. But the top 36 still always a pit stop here. And look, I will say one thing: Alex Davidson, Dino Lombardi, they've got no traffic in front of them, and they're not catching up to any traffic right now. So right now they can just focus on going hard and going fast here at the front of the field.
Go hard, go fast, drive your race car as quickly as you can, and really just see those tires as an afterthought. And that's what both these drivers are doing very well at the moment. Breaking away into their own little pack and still covered by a tick over a half a second. We'll say that gap between Alexander Davidson and Dino Lombardi is a vast yawning chasm compared to what it is earlier on in the race. But I mean, it's still practically nothing between those two cars. We are over 20 minutes into this 45-minute long race, and the front two in this race are still covered by nothing as we start to see some drivers inside that top 30 make that call to come into the pits.
Yeah, Will Guthrie, Andy Tompkins, Alessandro Toccio, Taylor Lane, they're decided. I mean, Will Guthrie, he was involved in a quite a hard fight with Joe Newman, and I wonder if he feels now that that basically he was close, he was too close, that he felt that he was quicker, that now's the time to try and get a bit of clean air and to be able to move through. And by the way, thank you very much to Nick McLaughlin in the chat. It's an Eevee. I wouldn't have had a clue, so you're all right. You're safe with me.
Yeah, I will say some of the people that I was around in my middle and elementary school days, they did play with Pokemon. I did not. So I was just the shy kid who didn't really talk to anybody and only liked race cars. So I'm good at spotting cars out there on the racetrack, not very good at spotting the Pokemon that are behind some of these drivers.
I will say that in my time at high school, it was Tamagotchis. That's what we had. Teachers absolutely hated them, so oh boy, I'm showing off my age now. Josh Boot has got mechanical meatball warning flag out there, so he's had some drama further down in the field. Josh is one of those drivers where if he didn't have bad luck, he wouldn't have any luck at all. And here is what's happened to Josh. And again, it's Brooklands. The thing is, he gets collected, and that's what's giving him the damage.
And it looked like he had a lot of damage on the back end of that race car at first, but the rear bumper and rear wing popping back onto the race car, I was going to say, it was a pretty small whack for the rear bumper to popping off like a misshapen Lego, as we see some drivers a little bit farther up the road make that call to come into the pits, one of them being Eric Rosseth in the 142 car.
Yeah, Rosseth, David, the good doctor, Dr. Baker, onto pit road, Michael Gray, Andy Shield, Alex Schmidt is there in pit road as well, picking his timing for his pit stop. Chris Chatterton as well onto pit road. So a number of drivers deciding that now's the time to get their service done here. As we come down the Wellington Straight, looking to the inside there was Adam State behind Ola Daniel. Daniel, the Hungarian driver. And I could tell you that one driver in the field has had a drive-through penalty for instant point accumulation. You get 18 in a 45-minute race and somebody's already hit that limit.
I will say, based off some of the beating and banging and roughing each other up that we saw in the midfield on lap 1 and lap 2, I can't say I'm too surprised, but that is still a pretty high amount of incident points to gain in the span of, at this point, we're a tick over 25 minutes into this 45-minute long race. So certainly not ideal at all for the driver that did pick up that drive-through penalty, but with the drama we saw at the start, I can't necessarily say I'm too shocked.
Alessio Bonino then for 07 Racing down the Hangar Straight. Behind him is former champion Jack Sedgwick, season 15 champion Sedgwick, and they come through. Now, do any of these head onto pit road? No, they don't. They carry on for the time being. Nobody in the top 10 heading onto pit road at this stage of the race. So we are getting closer and closer. Like I said, the drivers at the front more likely to go long as Joe Newman and Lewis Ward, latest ones, onto pit road.
I gotta wonder, as these drivers continue this slow trickle of cars coming into the pit, looking at Lewis Ward in that number 37 Porsche making that run into the pits, being joined by a Mustang a little bit farther in the back, I gotta wonder whether or not this trickle is going to start to speed up in the next couple of laps. Are we going to see even more drivers make that call to come into the pits, or are we just going to see this slow, steady march of drivers making that call to come down pit lane? What do you think, Paul?
I think what we'll get is a bit of a pit party. We've got a mini one right now. Ben Gregory is on there, so too Jack London, Tom Stanley. Phil Samways, who collected Josh Boot in that instant, Jan-Man Pruis as well onto pit road here at this time. So plenty of strategy calls at play, but still, we've got the top 15 plus 2 others as... There you go. The difference between a Charizard and an Eevee for you there, Ron. Thank you to Hugo Luis, our producer, for that.
Thanks, Hugo. I appreciate that one. Yeah, I should probably beef up my basic Pokemon knowledge because that is not good. Oh no, I'm never gonna let that down. Well, I'm never gonna let that one down. That's gonna stick with me for life, folks.
Oh dear, that tickled me too much. Dino Lombardi and Lorenzo Castellani are on to pit road now. So Alex Davidson going longer in the lead of this one. Ola Daniel, Jack Sedgwick, Alex Cohen onto pit road as well. So they're all deciding now is the time to pick Nikolai Agard, Tim Perry. They're also onto pit road. So I said we were going to get a bit of a pit party here. Well, there we go. We're on to the pit lane for the majority of those who've yet to pit.
Yeah, so the pit stops clearly underway for a decent chunk of these drivers, and now it is officially broken into the top 10 with even more racers making that call. Lombardi exiting out in 8th. I'm curious how this is all going to work out for him in that number 78 car as we see more drivers exiting. This is Jack Sedgwick in that number 11 car. Was briefly running in P11, but clearly the number gods deciding that that was too perfect for too long. He's now exiting out in in 12th, but he's still involved in a battle. You got 2 race cars right in front of him, and who knows, he may be able to break up into the top 10, the not too far off future, the final top 10 spot, currently being occupied by Ola Daniel, who's only literally 1 car between himself and Sedgwick.
As we head into Brooklands now, if you're Alex Davidson, you need to push this lap to be able to make the most of having a lighter car than Dino Lombardi, who you were fighting against. Now, can he do this in his Porsche? We've known over the previous seasons of this championship that Porsche can be a frugal car. If you are in the market for a sports car but want something that's a bit more frugal on the fuel mileage, this is your car right here, a 911 GT3R. As on to the pit road goes Alex Davidson. Anders Meyer joins him there. I'd imagine that the rest of them, Michael Avdoka, Adam State, Alicia Bonino, Adam Watson and Jack Osborne, should all head on to pit road right now. Dino Lombardi, where is he out there on track? He's just coming through to the club chicane right now here, Ron. This is going to be close.
Yeah, this is going to be tight. I'm keeping my eye to see where Lombardi is. He's going on to that start finish straight away right now. Davidson revving the crap out of that motor to try and get out and away as best as he can. Here we go. It's going to be a drag race. He's already on pit exit. Lombardi heading through turn number 1 into 2 right now. I think Alexander Davidson may have gone away with this, but he still needs to get those tires back up to temperature.
Yeah, but Lombardi had the pace there through the first couple of corners at Abbey and Farm, so it will have caught him up a bit of time. But Davidson, by being able to go that little bit longer there, was able to pull out a 2.1 second lead at the front of the field over Lombardi. Looking at Eric Rousseff then in 8th place with Jack Sedgwick right behind. Bonino's behind them. Ola Daniel, 7th place. Good, strong placing for Ola. Up 1 place from where he started. Adam State is up 4 places from where he started in this race. Further down your field, Chris Chatterton is your biggest mover. 19 places gained by Chris. So incredible driving from him throughout the early stages of this race. But at the front, it's Davidson from Lombardi, from Castellani. Then it's your top 3 in Pro. Your top Pro-Am, it's still Adam Watson, 11th place overall, ahead of Will Guthrie now, who's been able to jump Joe Newman in the pit stop cycles. That's 2nd and 3rd respectively for them in Pro-Am. In your Am class, it is still going to be, well, he says that confidently, but I can't actually see him on the timing screen ahead. I believe it's Ben Gregory who's leading it. Yes, he is. He's just ahead of Dan McCauley, so the jump has happened in the pit stop. The McLaren ahead of the Ford, who's ahead of the Porsche and Tom Stanley. 1, 2, and 3 right there in front of each other.
That full tilt car using that strategy game to absolute perfection to grab the lead, but it is still not over yet. We've got 12 minutes and 40 seconds left of racing action here at Silverstone, and we got plenty of opportunities for these drivers to try and get some moves done. The sun's still shining, so these drivers are going to be trying to make some hay while it is. So let's see how this fight is going to shake out for the M win.
Yeah, we certainly will see how it all pans out. But the problem for Gregory is that he's causing a big slipstream for the driver behind him, which is Dan McCauley. McCauley trying to take that wider line into Stir. Now the question is, can Gregory hold on to this? 12 minutes. It's going to be a long time to hold on to this place. I know that last year Gregory was dealing with some health issues and had to spend some time in hospital. So hopefully he's able to muster that strength and energy to stay ahead in the AM lead in 31st.
Yeah, they nearly came to blows heading through the club chicane a couple of moments ago. That was terrifyingly close as we were running on board with that Mustang. The thing with the Mustang as well, every single time I've ridden on board with a driver in a GT3 race that I've been covering, in that Mustang, it feels like you cannot see where the front of the car is at all. Reminds me of some cars I've driven around in real life, but I swear I feel like I can see out of the front of my 1985 Oldsmobile better than these drivers could see at the front of these Mustangs. So I gotta imagine that makes side-by-side racing slightly terrifying if you are a Mustang driver.
I could tell you from experience of sitting in the driver's seat of the Ford Mondeo that ProDrive built in 2000 in the British Touring Car Championship, you cannot see the front 4 feet of that car. It is just incredible. Just you're having to just use your sensors as to be able to estimate where the front of that car is, and it will be something similar with that Mustang. But right now that Mustang has got a bit of pressure from behind as well, because Bobby Thompson making his way past, working his way through the field on a recovery drive. Remember, he had that issue at the loop at the very start of the race. He pretty much was in last place, was Bobby. The former British touring car driver, I better check if he is a touring car driver this year, is currently finding himself 32nd right now, about to pass Ben Gregory.
And there we go, side by side, heading down at the end of the hangar, straight away off into turn number 5. Perfect time for me to pull out my track map of Stowe. Turn number 15. They finally get that move done, so that is a pass right towards the tail end of this field. But still, these drivers battling for every single spot that they possibly can for both bragging rights and those championship points.
Yeah, Bobby at the moment without a team. It'd be great to see him back out there. He was racing with the Zeus Cloud Racing with WSR this last year for 3 races. Was only able to get the 1 championship week with WSR, but it'd be great to see Bobby back out there on the grid as Ben Gregory back under pressure then from Dan McCauley. This is an exciting battle for the race lead in AM, because really this is the best battle that's out there right now. The top 3 in AM all here. Tom Stanley from Prestata Nomad looking from the outside in.
We got 2 drivers in Mustangs and 1 in a McLaren. That McLaren looks so out of place in this battle of massive race cars. I gotta wonder how you're feeling if you are Benjamin Gregory, your current leader in the AM class, because that is sketchy. If ever you see one side-by-side racing heading off into Cops, that is so close between these drivers. You can see at this point in time, they are starting to risk it a teeny tiny bit more, as we only have about 8.5 minutes left to go. These drivers start to risk it a bit more.
Tom Stanley closing up through the Beckett's complex on board with the rear of Ben Gregory's car. The better run this time for Dan McCauley. He's going to pull out to the left-hand side, going the long way around into Stowe Corner. Can he hold it out there? You can make a move around the outside here at Stowe. Gregory's doing his best, but he's left in the space. And that was respectful racing between the 2 of them. Dan McCauley to the head of AM, and here comes Tom Stanley now, trying to take advantage in his Porsche. He's got the inside line, and Ben Gregory's almost getting freight trained here.
I will amend my statement that I made earlier on. 1 driver in a Mustang, 1 in a Porsche, the other in a McLaren. But that McLaren still feels out of place compared to those 2 race cars that are going side by side with them. But this battle is absolutely insane towards the front of AM, riding on board and seeing this hornet's nest heading down now into turn number 3. These drivers battling tooth and nail, going side by side. But look at this. It has been a disaster, a series of events for Gregory. He's dropping down like a rock.
Yeah, he's down to 4th in AM because that was Jack London working his way past as well. So onto a podium spot for Jack in the AM class. 7 minutes remaining here in this race, and still we don't know how the AM race is going to go in all of this. Pro-Am has got a bit of a gap, so we don't need to worry about them. Same with your overall lead. They've got a bit of a gap at the front of the field. But this is exciting stuff, and it just goes to show here, Ron, that yes, they may be quote-unquote AM drivers, but they can still give us some tremendous racing.
That's exactly right, Paul. They may have that AM tag, but they can battle tooth and nail just like everybody else in this 53-car grid here from the World GT Championship. And this battle that we're seeing, not only has it been incredibly exciting to watch, it's been clean as well. These drivers haven't been banging doors every single corner, and haven't been just throwing haymakers towards each other. They've been battling hard, don't get me wrong, but they've been doing it in such a clean and composed and calm and collected manner. As calm and collected as a Hornet's Nest of race cars can get, but it really just shows you the level of talent that we've got all up and down the grid here in this series.
Yeah, we certainly do. When you think the average strength of field across 53 cars was just a few points short of 4,000 iRating as an average, so it's not a bad field at all. Jack Osborne up here fighting away in his Atomic Esports car, and he's got Nikolai Agard with him in that Racing Lab Esports Mustang. So 2 Mustangs, and then behind them is also Adam Tompkins in that McLaren with Michael Gray and another McLaren down the inside. Little run between the two of them. And well, Osborne, you don't need to ask him twice to go through. And thank you very much. Flash of the headlights, terse flash of the headlights, but Adam Tompkins takes advantage of that. More contact.
Yeah, these drivers banging and roughing each other up. We've got about 5 minutes left to go. These drivers are deciding to go for it at the end of this race, and they're certainly doing that. Some blinking in have existence for a Porsche going on through into Maggots and Beckett's right now. These drivers giving us a fantastic fight to talk about up and down this grid, but contact being made as they went side by side. Not a major amount of contact, but not a safe amount of contact either. That was still sketchy either way.
As we head down the hangar straight again, and the Porsche in front of Lewis Ward will be glad that he's got a bit of a gap between himself and Jack Osborne, Adam Tompkins, Michael Gray, Nikolai Agard, and then Tim Perry in that Porsche with Alessandro Tuccio and Paul Webster there as well. So a big queue of cars here at the second half of the top 20. As we go through Club Corner once again, start another lap. We should have 3 laps remaining in this race, Ron, as now to the inside goes the Porsche. That's a risky move. Can he make it work? No, not for the time being.
Oh, and they nearly came to blows heading through into turn number 2. They're still side by side. Now into turn number 3. Look at that, the dive from the Porsche as they're side by side right behind 2 Acuras trading blows right behind them. This field is insane. These drivers trying to make some moves and ruffling some feathers in the process. The Acura and the Porsche now side by side heading on to the Wellington straightaway. Look at that, the wild off-track encounter, the interesting interpretation of track limits from that Acura. But you can see that Porsche withstanding that challenge from the duo of Acuras that was right behind, but that was some tense stuff either way.
That was Paul Webster running off the track there, losing a position there to Aidan Young, who's trying to do a bit of a recovery drive, down 9 places from where he started in this race. And well, I can tell you what, it is absolutely fantastic stuff here that we are seeing here today. Brilliant from these drivers, absolutely sensational stuff. And don't go anywhere, anybody, folks, because, well, after this race, we've got another race and we've got an inverted grid to contend with as well.
I gotta say one thing as well, Paul, just from my perspective, this being my second broadcast here from the World GT Championship, these drivers continue to impress me. I'll tell you what, their driving skills clearly a heck of a lot better than my Pokemon spotting skills, but these drivers just giving us a brilliant fight to talk about up and down the grid, giving us side-by-side fights. For some of these battles, they aren't even for like a big position. It's not like a podium in class or a win in class or something like that. These drivers are just assigned to battle tooth and nail with each other and just give us a good fight to talk about. I mean, obviously they're doing that to gain their position. They're not just doing that to give us something to talk about on the broadcast, but we'll take it either way. It's a brilliant racing regardless.
Ola Daniel there in 7th place, the Hungarian still holding on to the place ahead of Eric Rousseff, Jack Sedgwick, Alicia Bonino as well in this quartet of cars. And Daniel doing a sterling job. I do believe, and I'm sure that Daniel's father will tell us this in the chat, but I do believe, because it's Hungarian, it would actually be Daniel Ola, if I'm correct. So either way, certainly doing a good job in 7th place as Tuccio now working his way through, and that's Paul Webster that he's fighting with in that full tilt car.
And you can see these side-by-side fights continuing all throughout this grid. Despite the fact there's less than a minute and a half left on the clock, these drivers don't care. They're cranking up the wick and giving us some good fights to talk about all throughout this grid. This train of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Actually, no, that's 6 cars. My counting skills clearly not that good, as well as my Pokemon spotting skills. I will continue to mention that. If no one's going to let it down, I will continue to use that as a joke throughout the rest of this season. But we got a 6-car train here that we're following right now. And despite the fact that we've had 44 minutes of racing action leading up to this point, it shows you how competitive this series is. The fact these cars are still vacuum sealed together.
Yep, they certainly are giving us a tremendous race here. And it's going good now. Heading towards starting the final lap of the race. Alex Davidson's going on to the Wellington Straight. Meanwhile, defensive moves being made with the Porsche. And that's Aidan Young trying to make moves on Tim Perry. And Perry looking a little sketchy out of club corner. And you would imagine that Aidan Young is wanting to make that move as quickly as possible just to gain one more spot here through Albion Farm for the final time in this open race of the evening. And now as they go through the loop for the final time, still staying as they are.
Yeah, still staying line astern for now, but as they go on to the Wellington straightaway and head their way off into Brooklands for the last time in this first race of the evening, I'm curious if anyone's going to try and risk it for the biscuit or risk it for the Trisca if they're feeling the low-calorie option. Looks like no one's going to risk it for now. However, they got a couple more opportunities left to try and get some moves done. I will say something about Aidan Young as well. Just an uber fast driver, but not the fastest, as it looks like the fastest is on track for a win.
Certainly, Alex Davidson, we did question whether he would be able to hold on to that very front of the field with that Porsche, but that fuel economy has really helped him out into the Vale and then through the left and the right at Club Corner. Alex Davidson, once again, a race winner here in the World GT Championship in the opening race of the day at Silverstone for round number 5. Davidson with a great drive ahead of Dino Lombard with Lorenzo Castellani in 3rd place. We've got a car going slow. That's the 142 of Eric Rousset. So he's had issues, maybe underfueled towards the end of the race. But Adam Watson then is going to come across the line and he'll take the Pro-Am win here for round number 5. He's able to beat Will Guthrie and Joe Newman into the top spot of Pro-Am. In your Am category then, it is still Dan McCauley who is leading that one, and he's heading towards Stowe for the final time in this opening race of the evening. Alex Schmidt has picked up a black flag on the last lap and he's trying to serve it now. I don't believe that that will be counted as served going across the line here. But meanwhile, Dan McCauley through the final corner. He's the leader in Am. He takes the checkered flag, and a great drive for the Series 1 Racing Mustang.
Yeah, brilliant runs from all the drivers up and down the grid. And just to wrap the bow around the storyline involving that driver trying to serve the black flag, that's not going to work on the last lap. So that, not only is he going to lose out on some time trying to serve that black flag, he's also going to pick up, I think it would probably be a 35-second or maybe even more penalty from iRacing. So either way you slice it, even if it's 20 seconds, that's going to be a kick in the shins for that driver. So really unfortunate way to finish this first race for them. But hey, we're going to re-rack it, and we have a second 45-minute race left to go. So it's not all doom and gloom for that driver.
And Gustavo in the chat, he's having his 3rd heart attack with the performance of his son Daniel. So thank you very much for confirming it is Daniel Ola for us here today in this one. It's going to be 18 is the reverse grid draw. So we'll go through that. But right now, it's the unofficial race results here for round 5 of the World GT Championship. And it is Alex Davidson who wins that race by 2.7 seconds in that WSR Esports butt kicker car, ahead of Dino Lombardi for Grid & Go Esports in second. Lorenzo Castellani for 07 Racing, third place, a distant third for him. Anders Meyer and Michael Evdoka 4th and 5th, ahead of Adam State and Daniel Ola, ahead of Jack Sedgwick. Alicio Bonino and Alex Cohen, what a close race that was for 7th place. Eric Rousseff in 11th, and then it's your top Pro-Am. Adam Watson for the Altitude Esports by SimStickers car. He is one place, one car between him and his compatriots in Pro-Am. David Baker 13th, ahead of Will Guthrie, 2nd place in Pro-Am, 14th overall, ahead of Joe Newman, who was 3rd in Pro-Am, 15th overall. Lewis Ward, Jack Osborne, Adam Tompkins, Michael Gray and Nikolai Agard rounding out the top 20. Tim Perry then 21st, ahead of Aidan Young and Alessandro Toccio, with Paul Webster, Andy Shield, Phil Samways, Richard Simner, Taylor Lane, Bobby Thompson and Chris Chatterton into 30th place. Your top AM driver is Dan McCauley for Series 1 Racing in 31st, ahead of Tom Stanley and Jack London. It was close fighting all the way through, with Aidan Carter then in 34th. Dan Blackwell, Andy Jones and Jesse Payne Wilkins in those positions further down. Ben Gregory, after leading AM for a while, dropped down the positions into 38th, ahead of David Vey, who was having a recovery drive, and Yaman Puris. Alex Schmidt then, with that black flag penalty, we'll see him drop down into 41st, ahead of Simon Andre Livingston. Adam Hedgecock ahead of Cameron De Bestos, Luca Monroe and Alistair Pollock. And then it's Josh Boot, Jonathan Walker, Stephen Koenig 1 lap down. Kristander Thasang is 10 laps down, does not finish. Neither does Leo Dragertha, Ben Altria, and Paddy Faulkner did not take the race start. So that is how things stand after that opening race of the day. 18th place is that reverse grid draw as well. So that means that we will see Adam Tompkins and Jack Osborne on the front row of the grid. Well, those two were fighting quite a bit in that first race. They'll carry on up at the front of the field this time, Ron.
Yeah, that's going to be rather tense for both of those drivers. Have a very strong feeling that those two are going to be thinking, hey, you were battling me tooth and nail for a spot not even inside the top 15 for the end of that first race. I'm going to battle with you tooth and nail even more for the front row in this second race. So I have a feeling that we're in for an absolute barn burner of a race coming up. 18 cars at the front of the field inverted. Some drivers looking to have a one-up against their competitors and kick off this 6th round of the championship as best as they possibly can. We're in for a good one for the second race of the day.
Yeah, should be an absolute barnstormer of a second race. We have got also the potential of some mixed weather as well for these drivers. So definitely one to keep an eye on for that one as well. But let's talk at the front of the field then. Alex Davidson, I'm just looking at my timing screen, 2.7 seconds ahead of Dino Lombardi. That Porsche looks really strong actually around here compared to that Acura.
Yeah, you know, despite the fact that Dino Lombardi took the fast lap of the race in that first race of the night, it was just a story of consistency at the front of the field. Not having the best lap, but just having the consistency to keep going, keep going, keep going. Certainly that run through the pits is part of the reason why that gap grew between those two drivers. But either way, a pretty fantastic performance for him to grab that win.
Yeah, certainly was. Really good performance from him to go that lap longer and be able to take less fuel, also have a lighter car for a lap. That was key for Alex out there. Pro-Am, Adam Watson, he came into this round of the championship leading Pro-Am by the smallest margin over Paul Webster. We saw Paul having issues out there in that opening race. Good evening so far for Adam, but he's now got that reverse grid that he's a little bit further up the field now.
Yeah, a teeny tiny bit farther up the field, but for Adam Watson, that performance in that first race was exactly what you need to do when you're involved in a microscopically close championship battle like he was. A performance like that, it helps the mind a little bit just to be like, hey, I'm not here because of accidents in the first 4 races. I'm here because I am ready to fight for this championship. So to grab a win in that 5th race of this season that we just saw a couple of moments ago is a really good result for Watson. And with that high up starting spot, I think he's going to be feeling really good in this second race we have coming up, even though he won't be the highest starting of the Pro-Am drivers.
Yeah, he'll be feeling confident, that is for sure. Dan McCauley, Tom Stanley, Jack London, Aidan Carter, Ben Gregory, they can all have a little tip of the hat from me, because that was tremendous racing between those AM drivers down there. Yeah, it was fighting over 30th place, but that's an AM win. That means something there to them drivers.
Yeah, they were battling tooth and nail, and as I said, as we were seeing that battle develop, as much as they were battling tooth and nail and just throwing haymakers at each other at every single opportunity they could, they went through that race clean. They all put on a fantastic battle, and it was a gaggle of AM drivers too, so it wasn't like there's only 1 or 2 or 3 of them at most. That was a decent chunk of the AM field that were battling tooth and nail for that win. Really impressive to see that performance from the AM drivers.
Well, make sure you stick around, everybody, because we'll be right back with more action. 45 minutes of action, to be precise, here in the World GT Championship, because it's going to be round 6 here at Silverstone. The top 18 inverted on the grid.
Them as well. What a move for the 48. Oh, look at this. And onto the straight they come.
Brilliant move there from number 40 to make it through. That left-hander sliding up the inside, going up now over Hawthorne Hill, down Pilgrim's Drop, and it's brilliant stuff here at Brands Hatch.
Welcome back then to coverage of the World GT Championship, and we've had a sprinkling of rain here in this before the start of the second race of the day. The track is very lightly wet, and we are not expecting any more rain to come. So Ron, from my experience of racing in these conditions, and this is slicks weather, but my goodness, are these drivers going to be having to work hard for this?
Oh yeah, they are going to be sawing at the wheel all throughout this race. I mean, the damp conditions that we're seeing on track at the present moment, it just creates enough uneasiness for these drivers and enough uneasiness for their cars to be able to be a bit more terrified for this second race. So we thought that race number 1 wasn't going to be a cakewalk in the park. This race is going to be even more tense than the one that came before.
Now, if you remember the Nürburgring, we had a similar situation, didn't we? We'd had a passing rain shower, but it was a lot wetter on track, so everybody did start on wet tyres. Here, the track is dry enough, as I say, from my experience of racing here on the service, that it's dry enough that you'd have to start on slicks. Take that risk at the start, because otherwise you're going to be pitting after 2-3 laps.
Yeah, and that's the thing as well when it comes to these changeable condition races. You don't want to go into it and immediately set yourself up for having to do a strategy that you're A, not really comfortable doing, or B, won't even work at the end of the day. So sometimes in a condition like this, you just kind of got to put yourself out of your comfort zones. For some of these drivers, they're going to be very far out of their comfort zones, but you got to do that because otherwise, as you just said, if this track is just a bit too dry for wet tires at the drop of the green flag, you're going to be in for a lot of trouble. Your tires will be melted, and then you're going to completely ruin the way the rest of the race is meant to go for you.
Don't forget as well, those wet tires, if you do put them on, they have a larger circumference, so therefore you actually have a lower top speed as well. So going down the Hangar Straight and the Wellington Straight, you could be under pressure and just having people just driving by you on slick tires as well. That's another thing to take on board.
Yeah, that's a very good point to raise. And one thing as well when it comes to the wet tires, Paul, talking about the way the tire just is. They're softer technically than the dry tires. They have a softer diameter. The rubber is a bit stickier. It's a bit tackier. But the problem is when it comes to conditions like this, if you do decide to start this race on wet tires, because, I mean, from my point of view, Silverstone, not really a track where straight line speed is the, top echelon of importance for these drivers. But if these drivers do start this race in the wet, they're going to have to be driving nowhere close to the racing line. In wet conditions like this, the racing line probably not going to be the good one to run on, but you also want to cool off your tires as well, because once those tires start to overheat, it's going to be feeling like you're running on a puddle of rubber instead of an actual tire gripping the racing surface.
Well, the drivers are using every single second of this warm-up session to just acclimatise themselves to the conditions, because in just a few moments' time we'll be starting the second race of the evening. And, well, it's a pleasure to have you along for the ride here. And it's Paul Smith and Ron Mounds behind the commentary microphones, and it is Hugo Luis behind the scenes in production. So we'll be bringing you all of the action here and getting ourselves ready for the second race of the evening. Well, drivers getting themselves onto the starting grid, and we'll be getting ready for this race. So let's take you through your starting grid then. And it's a 52 car grid. We have lost Paddy Faulkner here for this one, who didn't take the race start. So it's Adam Tompkins and Jack Osborne on the front row of the grid. What will they be able to do at the start here ahead of Lewis Ward and Joe Newman? Will Guthrie And David Baker then sharing the third row of the grid. Adam Watson with Eric Rosseth on row number 4, Alex Cohen and Alessio Bonino on the 5th row of the grid. Jack Sedgwick and Ola Daniel sharing row number 6. 7th row of the grid for Adam State and Michael Evdoka with Anders Meyer and Lorenzo Castellani on row number 8. Row 9 for your winners at the front of the field, Dion Lombardi and Alex Davidson. Then it's where they finished is where they start. And Michael Gray then is sharing row number 10 with Nikolai Agard with Tim Perry and Aidan Young on row number 11. The 12th row of Alessandro Toccio and Paul Webster. Andy Shield and Phil Samways on row number 13 with the 14th row of Richard Simner and Taylor Lane. Bobby Thompson will continue his charge through with Chris Chatterton alongside him on row number 15. The 16th row of the grid, it's that fight in Am is going to continue. Dan McCauley and Tom Stanley, Jack London and Aidan Carter on row number 17. The 18th row of the grid, Dan Blackwell and Andy Jones. Row number 19 for Jesse Payne Wilkins and Ben Gregory, with David Vey and Jan-Man Pruis on row number 20. The 21st row of the grid of Alex Schmidt and Simon Andre Livingston. Then Adam Hedgecock and Cameron De Bastos sharing the next row of the grid with Luca Monroe and Alistair Pollock. Josh Boot and Jonathan Walker then share row number 25 for Stephen Koenig and Kristander Thasang, with Leo Tregurtha and Ben Altria rounding out your 52 car grid. Well, it's a good job that we had 2 minutes to hold the grid there whilst we went through the starting order. But this is an opportunity for a few drivers here. Adam Tompkins could be in for a good shout if he can hold the lead and pull away at the front.
Yeah, he certainly has a good shot to do well in this race, but it's not going to be easy at all. We got those changeable conditions. We got the pitch strategy content, which played a huge role in that first race. This is going to be a heck of a lot of fun to continue tonight.
Alex Schmidt, according to my timing screen, is the only driver on wet tyres, so I expect to see him onto pit road very shortly indeed. But we are underway. Adam Tompkins across the line. It's to start the race, and already we're going to spin a John Newman's around. He touched the painted surface and he spins around. He's going to go all the way down to the back of the field. More contact for Eric Rousseff in the mid-pack here of the top 10 and in towards the loop for the first time. Oh, it's all got to be tentative and you've got to be careful. Slick tyres on this damp surface, and it's showing for these drivers.
Slick tires, cold tires, rain and paint go together horribly, and we just saw that up on full display a couple of moments ago as there's some more drama a little bit farther in the back of the pack. You can see these drivers not really caring though. They're still going side by side, heading down that back straightaway into turn number 6 of Brooklands. These drivers giving us some good fights to talk about in this race, but in terms of that debate, which is very much flaring in these drivers' minds between slick tires or rain tires, there is no good option. There is only the least terrible, and we've already seen that got put on full display thus far.
Well, the problem is, as Adam Hedgecock goes off the track, we saw Chris Chatterton turned around at the loop earlier on the lap. If you end up touching a white line, if you touch some painted surface or anything like that, it is slick. You cannot cope with that, especially with these slick tyres on damp conditions. But at the front, Adam Tompkins still leading this one ahead of Jack Osborne, Lewis Ward, and then Will Guthrie and Alex Cohen are fighting it out for 5th place as they go on to the hangar straight for the first time. Drivers looking to just try and find a slipstream partner down there into the braking zone. Gotta be oh so careful. And so far, Cohen holding on to 6th place. We've got more drama further down. That's the 147 of Cameron De Bastos. It's not been his best day today.
that it certainly has not. More drivers having their own incidents heading through, completing the first lap of this race. It was some side-by-side fighting heading through the club chicane, but it was a first lap of the race, which I can't even say is as hectic as the start of race number 1. I think it's equal in terms of it. No more, no less chaos, but still lots of drama going on for these drivers up and down the grid. And look at that, some drivers hitting the painted curb on the exit of the final corner. That's gutsy.
That's mighty brave but mighty stupid. I've just yet to decide which one is which as they go through the right and the left, heading towards this tight section at Village. Onto the brakes. Chris Chatterton having to get repairs done to his car. Joe Newman is out of the race. He's retired. He's done for today with technical issues. Actually, it wasn't just the spin that he had onto the start-finish straight. But as we head towards Brooklands once again, where do you look in this field? Because there's action aplenty all the way through.
Yeah, that's a very good point to raise there, Paul. I feel bad for our producer, Hugo. Is that to be like a chameleon, looking at about 14 different things at once as contact. Big amount of drama heading through into Luffield. Multiple cars around and multiple cars in the gravel.
Oh my goodness, there's even more. Agard's off. Aiden Carter's off as well. The best of rejoins from Aiden Carter, I can tell you from the background of shot there. But Bonino, Paul Webster were involved there. So too was Michael Evdoka. Number of drivers at Luffield all around in the gravel, but still at the front. Adam Tompkins leading this race right now. He's got to hope among hopes for the Altitude Esports team that he's able to pull away and get a gap, because Jack Osborne and Lewis Ward, they're fighting. Lewis wants to get to the head of the field as well, and up into second for the Porsche driver.
Yeah, Lewis Ward trying to make hay while the sun isn't shining here at Silverstone. The rain's still on the track. But I gotta say, though, Paul, looking at these cars running around here, I think the rooster tails coming off the back of these cars are actually starting to shrink a little bit. It's still very much so prevalent. Spray's getting kicked up into the air. But I think now that we're kicking off the third lap of this race, it may be going down a teeny tiny bit. It's still prevalent, but it's going down.
And the problem is because the same as what we had at Nürburgring at the start of the season, as the track is drying out, it's drying out on the racing line. This is what happened to Newman at the start. A big heart-in-mouth moment, and he decides, do you know what, let's get out of the way of everyone. Here's what happened to Chris Chatterton. He loses it all on his own, and then he's a sitting duck, and bang, right into that front corner. That's what will have given him the mechanical warning flag. That's Adam Hedgecock at Brooklands. Around he goes on that opening lap as well. And this is what happened on the last lap. Bonino down the inside, contact with Evdoka, and, well, the full tilt car of, I believe it was Michael Gray, actually, the innocent party in all of that.
Yeah, that was just a messy incident heading down into Luffield. You can see multiple cars coming to blows, more contact being made, and that was just a lot of chaos going on in the span of a couple of moments. There you can see the Nikolai Agard incident in the number 3 car. Just a lot of stuff going on in the span of a couple of seconds.
And Aiden Carter with Dan McCauley, and then this rejoin from Aiden, I'm sorry, not the smartest of rejoins right there, and I think the stewards will be having a look at that post-event as we get another look there. So there you go, that's Dan McCauley on the inside in that Mustang, remember, AM winner in the opening race of the day, and just gets on the power straight away when this car's coming around. I mean, fortunately, they all fanned out and got around him, but that was not great. But one thing I did notice in all of that, in that initial incident, Dino Lombardi was right there around the outside. He almost got collected in that Michael Evdoka incident, as even more stuff like Alex Schmidt around. His wet tyre's not doing him any good.
Oh, and you can see that clunk to the back of the number 50 car of Alex Schmidt. You can see the Porsche that hit him going off the track a little bit farther down that start-finish straightaway. But he brought up a very good point there, Paul, talking about Dino Lombardi and how he's going to be, at least from my perspective, the center of attention all throughout this race. How is he going to tackle things here, as there you see Alexander Davidson diving down the inside? That's Lorenzo Castellani getting the move done on him, heading off into turn number 3. At least he tried to go for the move. It was a last-second dive for the driver of the number 5 on the driver of the number 1 car, and could have ended in tears, but thankfully they get away with it rather scot-free. But the drivers who we saw finish P1 and P2 in that race, Alexander Davidson and Dino Lombardi, going to be the ones that I'm keeping my attention on, just seeing how those two high-class drivers in this series tackle a really challenging race.
Alex Davidson yesterday was racing in the Rafa Racing Club Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain around Thruxton. Different track to this one, but my goodness, the adaptability of him to be able to go from Thruxton in a Porsche Cup car into a Porsche 911 GT3R is quite good going. It's pretty similar, but a couple of driver aids and a bit more downforce in this GT3 machinery for Alex Davidson, as he's in 9th right now, as you mentioned. He's got Daniel Ola in front of him right now, so it's a fight for some of you pro drivers, as you mentioned, moving through the field as well. I want to point out Adam Watson has taken the lead of Pro-Am.
And that right there is the kind of performance that he needs at this point in the season, as the side-by-side racing inside the top 10, very much so continuing side-by-side between the two Jacks, heading off into the club chicane. That's Jack Sedgwick trying to get the move done on Jack Osborne, not close enough, as farther behind it was Alexander Davidson, William Guthrie, and Lorenzo Castellani. I'll get the name pronunciation down by the end of this season, but that was very close quarter stuff. That's a spinner, while the Acura is spinning around a little bit farther in the back as they went through the final corner. Not sure who that was, but more drama with them.
It's David Baker. Massive problems into the pit wall. Oh, and he was assisted. Oh, that was assisted, was that one. Bang, into the back of him. He then gets the boot down. Oh, and he gets rear-ended, I believe, in all of that. Again, not a clever rejoin going on. Oh, it's such a difficult place to rejoin. Here's David Baker. So there's the contact from behind. That's what causes the initial spin. He then gets on the power, and right there, that's Tim Perry.
You gotta feel sorry for Perry, really. Nothing he could have done to try and prevent that from going on. That was ugly more than anything else as they went on to the start-finish straight.
And it also, in these conditions, as we keep on alluding to, dry, slick tyres on a damp circuit, when you're coming around that corner, you're already putting the car at the very limit anyway through Club Corner. You can't just... People will turn around and say, well, why didn't he hit the brakes, or why didn't he just swerve out the way? Well, he would have gone flying off into the wall himself, would Tim?
Yeah, if he tried some sort of evasive maneuver, that just was not going to work for him. It was either hit that car that was rejoining the racetrack, or you just send yourself off. This may be a little bit selfish. I used to be a driver, so I still have that racing driver bit of self-entitlement myself. If a driver's going to cause me to go off the track, I may as well take them with me. That's definitely not the mindset that was taken into consideration as a result of all that, but it feels like there's some sort of fittingness to it. I'm not really sure the best way to describe it, but either way, just an unfortunate incident for both of those drivers, regardless of side-by-side racing and nearly coming to blows heading through the club chicane.
Dino Lombardi almost getting caught out by Osborne and Castellani coming together there through the club chicane. Alex Davidson has continued his march up the field. He's got ahead of Daniel Ola, so up into 6th place for your race winner from the first race of the evening. There's still plenty going on. Tim Perry's just headed onto pit road to get repairs done to his car. The thing is, you do get one free fast repair here in this championship per race. He's using that one, and to be honest, he can finish the race now. With the time remaining in this race, he will be able to make it to the end on this pit stop.
Yeah, and I gotta wonder if he is going to try and go for that strategy call. If it's in your back pocket, you can go for it. I'm curious as to whether or not he is planning on going for it, though, is a real question. Does he have enough gas in that car to be able to make it all the way to the checkered flag? I'm sure he probably thought of that beforehand and decided to lick the step and send it as we see contact being made. Another messy incident, this involving Steve Karnick in the number 38 car, and making contact with one of the... yeah, that was Thasang there. Thank you very much, Paul. But contact being made coming out of one of the final corners. That was turn number 15 of Stowe, where they came to blows. Another unfortunate incident. Lots of drivers coming to blows around this close quarters racetrack.
I'll tell you what, next lap, I would love to see, and this is me priming my producer, Hugo Luis. Next lap, I would love to see an onboard shot with the drivers in somewhere in this bottom end of the top 10, working through the Maggots-Beckett section onto the hangar straight, because those drivers will be working the wheel and with the spray hitting the windscreen as well. So they're doing it difficult. Onto pit road. This is an early stop then for the number 19 of Bobby Thompson. He's been working his way through the field, though. Don't forget, he started 29th in this race, so an early pit stop for him. He's feeling that that's the best strategy call.
He's going for that strategy. Yeah, going for tires as well. A little bit surprising about that regard, Paul. But coming into the pits is Bobby Thompson. Let's see how things shake out for him there. But I want to mention one thing, talking about the tires, which have obviously been a big talking points thus far in this second race of the evening. I want to mention the weather conditions as well, because you can see the track is still damp. Pit lane, pit entry and exit certainly a lot damper than the rest of the track, which come time for those pit stops, certainly going to be an important matter. But in terms of the track conditions temperature wise, it's not looking too good out there. The iRacing track temperature currently marked at 59 degrees Fahrenheit, which I believe is around 15 Celsius. For race cars and for a race like this, that is freezing cold.
No, you've obviously never been to Britain in the summer. This is actually quite warm for summer here in the UK. Anders Meyer for Racing Lab Esports in his Mustang, heading in towards Copse Corner. You've got to be really gentle with your turn in here. Going onto the curbs, so they're feeling that they can push those curbs and those painted lines a bit more now as we head into Maggots and Beckett's. Through the left, turn, through the right. You've got cars in front, kicking up spray, through the left again, onto the brakes to go onto the right. You've got to slingshot your way out of this corner, through Chapel, onto the hangar straight, and this is what takes you all the way down to Stowe.
And getting a good view of Anders Meyer wheeling that Racing Lab Esports Mustang around this track, and you can see him heading now down into Stowe. Let's see if there's any sort of sawing out the wheel. A little bit of jittering. Oh, you can tell when he hit the curb. That's the thing when it comes to the paint and the curbs around this track, and the matter of these drivers building up the balls to try and go on there. It's a game of chicken for these drivers. One driver does it, they spin out, they crash, but one driver does it, they get away with it, another driver does it. These drivers start to see each other do that, and they push the envelope even more. They want to go tit for tat, they want to stay line astern with their competitors, and to do that, you got to push yourself out of your comfort zone and push your competitors into their non-comfort zone areas as well.
Oh, and into the braking zone at the loop there. Look at how close up behind now Anders Meyer gets as he goes onto the Wellington Straight once again. And Jack Osborne in front has been dropping down the order here. We've got Dino Lombardi just around them as well. As down the inside goes Meyer, then up into that 11th place. So at the front, it's Adam Tompkins from Lewis Ward. That gap has not really pulled out much in the first 15-16 minutes of the race, but Alex Cohen has been making moves through the field, up 6 places into third, and putting the pressure on Lewis Ward at the front here.
Yeah, we got some very impressive impressive drives forming at the north end of the field. Tompkins obviously starting this race on the pole as a result of the field invert. He's done very well, though, to hold on to it in that number 17 car coming up to the halfway mark in a couple of minutes' time. Lewis Ward, though, he's been fast. Alex Kayon, he's been quick as well in that number 95 car. The fact those two are involved in the fight that they are really speaks volumes about the way both of those drivers are. Adam Thompson running in fourth has been impressive, too. He's still leading it in the Pro-Am category, won the first race in the Pro-Am class, looking to try and get the sweep here at Silverstone. And for a class that's been as close as it has been, Adam Watson with a performance like this in the 291 car, that'll be a statement.
Oh, that's what happened to Chris Chatterton. Goodbye, see you later, thanks for joining us. That's the end of Chris Chatterton's day, because that's a second mechanical meatball warning flag, and he is done for the day. Paul Webster's had issues as well through Beckett's. He's had a bit of a day to forget. Dan McCauley, oh, that's more contact for McCauley. You can see he's missing the front end of his car, and that was one of the full tilt cars getting spun around with him there. That was on the exit of entry onto the Wellington Straight. Of course, Wellington Straight named after the World War II bombers that they used to use this facility as a training facility for pilots to get used to the Wellington bombers. Down the inside then at Brooklands goes Alex Cohen. That gives you the outside at Luffield. That Porsche should have good drive out in the corner on the inside. And Adam Watson, respecter of no egos right now, he's getting involved in all of this as well.
He nearly tried to go for a pass in the grass coming out of Luffield onto the old pit straightaway here at Silverstone. That could have ended in tears, though. He's still running in fourth at the moment, though. It's been a good race for him in that 291 car. Good day in the sim as well for him, but it's not over yet. He's got a side-by-side fight on his hands with himself and Alexander Davidson. So we got the Pro winner from the first race and the Pro-Am winner converging on each other, and they're not battling for the win as it stands at the present moment. They're battling for the final two spots inside the top 5. So this is real, just totally different from how it was earlier.
Look at this queue of cars as Cohen again trying to get past Lewis Ward. Davidson to the inside of Watson. No move being made yet. Watson's trying to take advantage of Cohen with his compromised line through Stowe. Onto the brakes once again into the club chicane. So Watson, try as he may, cannot get past Jack Sedgwick. Take it to pit road. He feels that they were slowing him down. This is his opportunity to maybe try and make the strategy call work. Dino Lombardi in all of this as well. He's been gaining on this gaggle of cars. This is fantastic stuff here at the front of the field.
Yeah, what we're seeing right now, Paul, is we're seeing these drivers slowly get into their own comfort zones. They get into their comfort zone at their own unique pace. We're seeing some drivers maybe get there a little bit quicker than others, but either way, it's certainly giving us some great action to talk about at the front of the field, and doubly so considering we now have that pit stop drama to contend with. Coming up to 25 minutes left to go in the second race here this evening at Silverstone for the World GT Championship. These drivers are giving us a good one here in the rain.
Fantastic stuff. So Watson taking that tight line, Cohen going out wide to take the V off the corner. Look at them going all the way out now over the painted curbing on the exit of Luffield through Woodcut once again. 24 minutes remaining for the drivers. It's a case of now, when do they make the move? In all of this, because of the fighting that these drivers have been doing, Adam Tompkins has been able to get down the road a little bit. He's pulled out another second and a bit. It's now 3 seconds is his lead over Lewis Ward. So Ward, driving in his mirrors to a degree, is allowing Tompkins to pull away at the front. And I tell you what, team boss Mark Fletcher for Altitude Esports, he'll be crossing everything right now.
And there you can see fanning out one driver trying to get the move done on Lewis Ward. That's Alex Cohen heading down that back straightaway off into Stowe right now. Tries to go for it around the outside. He's going to end up in the paint, though. That's a super sketchy moment for the driver, the number 95. But let's see, will he be able to make that move stick down the inside into the club chicane? Got the inside line through the third to last corner, the outside line in the second, but he's going to get that move done on Lewis Ward. I was just going to mention the fact that Ward's been a little bit of a rolling roadblock as contact being made.
Oh, that's Lorenzo Castellani around, and it was all because it concertinaed up. Adam Watson had contact with Alex Davidson. Now, did Dino Lombardi collect them as well? Has he got damage in all of that? Here's the replay. Bang, bang. Yes, Dino Lombardi did collect him. My goodness, did he? That's a big, big hit for Castellani. So the question is now, Lombardi, does he come onto the pit road this lap to try and get any repairs done, to try and help his move through the field? But it's now Davidson into fourth place ahead of Adam Watson.
Yeah, as soon as Alex Cohen was able to get that move done on Lewis Ward, it just sent that section of the field into pure unbridled chaos. But I gotta wonder what Lombardi's going to do at this point. I think the strategy call that you made a couple of moments ago, Paul, talking about coming into the pits at the end of this lap to repair that damage, that may end up being the call. It all depends on how Dino Lombardi's race car is feeling. That number 78, it can either be driving like a hoopty-rod right now, or it may just have a few chips of paint taking out of it. Who knows? The only person that knows at the present moment is Dino Lombardi, but he seems to be confident in the way his race car is, based off the fact he's still involved in some battles that may be trying to reel in Alexander Davidson and Adam Watson in the not too far off future. So Lombardi may be actually feeling confident in that number 78 car after all. Let's see if he comes into the pits though.
I can tell Castellani has got the mechanical meatball flag, so he's going to have to come on down and get repairs done to his car. Adam Tompkins now 4 seconds ahead of Alex Cohen in all of this, as the front runners still staying out there. That track has pretty much dried up, and yes, Dino Lombardi onto pit road decided that it was the right call with the damage that he had. Get onto pit road, use your fast repair. Eric Rousseff is onto pit road, as is Castellani.
And now that we're seeing this number 78 car go slow down in the pits, you can kind of get a good idea as to how bad the damage was on that race car. There you go. The iRacing mechanics drinking a lot of Red Bull for that car to get fixed in the blink of an eye. You can see that front end of the car. You can see it pop back out again as he stopped in his pit stall. Very smart use of a nice onomatopoeia there. Was seeing that number 78 car of Lombardi stopped in his pit stall, but clearly that damage not helping him out at all. It's aero damage, mind you, but around a racetrack like this, aero damage could be a real detriment.
Down the inside, determined move from Alex Davidson on Lewis Ward, so gaining another place there. It was worth pointing out, and great work from our producer Hugo Luis to pick out that Jack Sedgwick has come out ahead of Lombardi. Remember, Sedgwick pitted 2 laps ago. This is his 3rd lap out of pit road, so that's worked out nicely for him. He was behind Lombardi coming onto pit road, so working out nicely for him. Bobby Thompson as well, who's pitted. He's still actually gained 8 places in this race, even after a pit stop, with everyone else having to make theirs. So with 20 minutes remaining here, it's still Adam Tompkins leading, but it's only 3.5 seconds now. Alex Cohen's getting the foot down, and they started to close up that last lap. He was 0.7 of a second quicker than your race leader was Cohen.
That really shows off the pace differential. I'm curious as to whether or not Adam Tompkins will be able to hold on to that lead between now and the checkered flag. Got those pit stops to worry about, and just got to worry about maintaining a good level of pace if you are at Tompkins. At this point in time, what he needs to probably think of is doing something different, because as it stands currently, Khan would be able to reel him in and just blow his doors off as if that number 17 car was sitting still. So at this point in time, if you are Adam Tompkins from the race lead, you've been up in the front of the field ever since the drop of the green flag about 25-ish minutes ago, you should probably think about having a different strategy call. The worst it can result in is you losing out on the lead, which, hey, if you do the same as the drivers around you, you're probably going to lose out on the lead anyways, just in terms of the pace differential. as we see David Vey overshoot his pit stall in the number 54 car coming into the pits.
Oh, not ideal then for David as we come on. But you can see that spray, as you pointed out earlier, it has significantly reduced out there. The track officially is mostly dry, so yeah, more and more these times will be coming to the drivers at the start of the race. The lap time wise, you were talking about 2 minutes 8 when the tyres got up to temperature and pressure. They're now doing 2 minute 2s, 2 minute 1s in this race, are the top drivers. So lap times are coming down pretty fast now as the conditions dry out. And Adam State, under some intense pressure from behind him. So State, currently 25th, has got Jonathan Walker behind him. State has pitted, Walker has not.
I do want to raise one more point off the back of the point you raised a couple of moments ago, Paul, talking about the way this track is drying and these drivers are having seconds be shaved off of their lap time. We're going to start to see these drivers shift around in terms of their pace and in terms of how they are doing in this race. Some drivers who are a little bit slower at the start going to gain more speed than their competitors to go side by side. Speaking of side by side, Anders Meyer, Aiden Young side by side into Club. It looks like Aiden Young going to get that move done, but Myers there on the offense now in the number 20 car looking to try and fight back. But getting back to the point I did raise a few moments ago, that pace differential between the start and the finish going to be put on full display with some of these drivers, and some of them are going to gain a heck of a lot of pace with the change of conditions.
Certainly are. And remember, open setups in this championship, no fixed setup. So if you've got your car set up better for dry weather compared to the wet weather, you might see those drivers come to the fore in the latter part of this race. Well, we're still waiting for the leaders to head onto pit road, but that lead now has come down pretty quickly. Last lap, Alex Cohen was, get this, 0.8 of a second quicker than Adam Tompkins in the lead. So Cohen is on a charge in that 07 racing car, but Alex Davidson, who's not that far behind Cohen, is on a charge himself, currently in 3rd place.
Yeah, and that's the real question that we've got, Paul. Will Alex Cohen be able to jump in front of Adam Tompkins before Alexander Davidson could jump in front of Alex Cohen? That's a real debate that we've got going on right now. I will say, Paul, kind of reminds me of the Nürburgring for the opening race of this championship, where we had multiple cars converging onto each other towards the end of that race.
Yeah, we certainly did, and it produced a great end to that race, that is for sure. Nobody on wet tyres though, so not that mixture of tyre strategies coming to play here. Now, as we reach 15 and 3/4 minutes remaining, Tompkins, Cohen, Davidson, 1st, 2nd and 3rd, and Davidson decides now's the time to pit. So too does Anders Meyer. So it's certainly being pulled now. Is this move? Can they make it work? And Jack Sedgwick, as we go back to him, we've not really been talking about him. He was that leading car who has pitted so far, currently in 13th. Can he come out ahead of Alex Davidson here?
Oh, this is looking like it's going to be tight. You can see him going on to that start finish straight away. Now Alexander Davidson back on the fast lane. Will it be close here? No, you can see Davidson exiting out right now. So that is going to be it's not as far apart as we saw for the battle for the win in the first race, but still not monumentally close either. It's tight though between Alexander Davidson and Jack Sedgwick. It's not a move from Sedgwick to break his way in front of the first race winner here tonight, but Sedgwick doing himself plenty of favors in that INEX racing car.
Chevrolet Corvette for Jack Sedgwick. The distinctive sound of that Chevy here in GT3 compared to the flat 6 Porsche that's in front of him. So as Jack Sedgwick now in X Racing onto the power, and there's that flat 6 German power from the Porsche. down the old start and finish straight, heading towards Copse Corner. Do you know what? That camera view is nice, apart from one thing. There's a big rear wing gets in our way of being able to see things as Alex Davidson runs wide through Copse Corner. That will give him a slowdown penalty. This is the opportunity that Sedgwick needed.
Yeah, and here we go. Let's see how Alexander Davidson serves this penalty, heading through Maggots and Beckett's. About to go on to that straightaway, and there you go. There's a move from Jack Sedgwick in that 11 car on the number 1 of Davidson. Davidson just not able to serve that slowdown quick enough. He had to goose out the throttle, heading onto the back straightaway, so it's going to be a loss of position for Alexander Davidson.
Tompkins, Cohen, Ward, Watson, Young, Ola and Osborne all onto pit road. Richard Simner as well. It's a pit party here at Silverstone as we head onto pit road. Well, it's a case of will Jack Sedgwick, remember his tyres, they're up to temperature and pressure. Out of pit road. Oh, Tompkins just comes out ahead of Cohen. It's neck and neck for the lead on pit exit. Cohen's going to make the move, and here comes Jack Sedgwick as well. It's 3 for the prospective lead right now. Tompkins holds on to it, but Jack Sedgwick is all over the back of them. This is why Sedgwick is a former World Championship driver.
Yeah, Jack Sedgwick playing that strategy call absolutely beautifully. He's now running in third, but he's still within striking distance of the 2 cars right in front of him. And who knows if Tompkins and Cohen battle too hard, those 2 cars could go off the track in a cloud of dust and steam and allow Jack Sedgwick to be able to get the move done side-by-side racing, which is something these drivers are definitely going to be doing in the final 12 minutes of this race. In conditions like this, it's sketchy. So I would not rule out Jack Sedgwick at all. I wouldn't even rule out Alexander Davidson behind in 4th. Any of these drivers have a mighty shot to take the checkered flag.
Aidan Young has a black flag to his name, so Aidan Young will have to head down to pit road, and that'll be for a pit exit infringement. Adam Tompkins in the lead of this race, coming under some serious pressure. Matt Fletcher, if you are watching this race, I don't know if you've taken your heart medication or not, because this one's going to be a tense one for you, for your team of Altitude Esports. Down the hangar straight. Now, Tompkins in that McLaren seems to have the grunt over the Acura of Cohen, but the Chevy and the Porsche, 4 different cars in the top 4 places right now, and any of them could win this race.
That's exactly right, Paul. Any of these drivers have a brilliant shot to get the job done. Adam Tompkins started this race from the pole position. He was able to hold on to it from the drop of the green flag as Aidan Young now coming into the pits to serve that penalty. But Tompkins, he held on to it since the drop of the green flag. Let's see if he can hold on to it all the way to the checkered. Alex Cohen, he's been quick in this race in the number 95 Acura. He's made up a lot of ground. He's made up a lot of positions. However, the 2 drivers behind are the ones that I'm going to be keeping my attention on, Paul. Jack Sedgwick put off a mighty strategy call to find himself in 3rd with only 10.5 minutes left to go in that number 11 Corvette. However, he's got the burn from Alexander Davidson, the reigning champion here from the World of Sim Racing GT3 Championship, the WSR Esports butt kicker number 1 Porsche. He's got the number 1 on that car for a very good reason. He was number 1 in race 1. He's trying to get the 2nd win of the night. So those 2 drivers running in 3rd and 4th are probably the ones that I'm keeping my eye on. But you're exactly right, Paul. Any of these drivers in the top 4 pack can do it.
As through Copse Corner once again we go. Time is running out, under 10 minutes remain. Still plenty of opportunities for them out here. And behind them, Lewis Ward not really able to keep up with them lap time wise. He's got Dino Lombardi, so Lombardi a little bit of a recovery after that incident through Stowe Corner for him. But looking on board, this is Alex Cohen's point of view. This is what he can see, the 07 racing driver putting the pressure on Tompkins, but Tompkins doing a sterling job right now at withholding that pressure. Sedgwick isn't close enough to make any moves, so Cohen can focus forward here in this race.
curious what's happened to Lewis Ward. I think he just dropped down like a rock a couple of moments ago in the 22 car. He's now running all the way down in 9th. So not sure what happened to him. That's allowed Dino Lombardi to slip his way up into P number 5. So the driver had the fastest lap of the race in race 1. Not involved in the battle for the win just yet, as he got some drivers coming out of the pits, disrupting this battle up in the front a teeny tiny bit. I'm curious here, Paul. You may be... Oh, and contact being made between Cedric and Davidson.
Oh, and there goes Lombardi and all of that. Davidson, to be fair, I think he's waiting for Cedric. He's doing the right thing, waiting for Jack Cedric, but that was rather unnecessary. Meanwhile, at the front, I can tell you it's pretty close for the race lead as well. They're neck and neck through Brooklyn's, almost contact between the two of them. Oh my word, this race has turned on their head. And that, just the smallest of contact between Cedric and Davidson. Davidson had to get out of the way of everyone. But meanwhile, at the front, neck and neck, Tompkins versus Cohen for the race lead right now. Through Cop's corner they go. And well, who's going to win this one? Oh, now Tompkins. Could he get a slow down penalty? I think he's got away with that one this time.
Yeah, he got away with one there for sure. Tompkins still holding on to the race lead. It's now a heads-up two-car 1-versus-1 battle for this race win, and both of these drivers have been close all throughout this race. Tompkins, in the early stages, he didn't have a lot of drivers applying pressure to him, but then the gap between these two started to diminish. It went down by tenths of seconds, lap after lap after lap after lap. Adam Tompkins has been feeling the burn. Alex Cohen has been the one applying that pressure, and let's see if he can make a move stick.
Oh, this is great. Oh, fantastic stuff between the two of them. Cohen not able to stay on the inside there of Club, which allows Tompkins to just pull away a little bit, just quickly to bring you up to speed where the others are out there on track. Adam Watson still leads Pro-Am in 8th place, with Will Guthrie 2nd in Pro-Am in 13th.
Whoa.
Jack Osborne in 3rd in Pro-Am. As look at Cohen, absolutely with Tompkins.
Whoa.
Now. This is the move. Contact between the two of them.
Whoa.
Oh, Cohen, how on earth did he hold that one?
Sawing at the wheel. That was insane for Alex Cohen in that number 95 car. Tried to make the move stick. Tompkins slipped up a little bit coming out of turn number 2. He hit the dirt, he hit the grass, he hit the painted curb on the exit of turn number 2, and he was oh so sideways, and that gave the number 95 of Alex Cohen the shot that he needed to try and get that move done. It was unsuccessful. He should be counting his lucky stars the fact he's still running in P2, but Luke has been brought into that fight as a result of those two. Dino Lombardi is running in 3rd. He's within striking distance, and if these 3 drivers start to battle, we may have Anders Meyer in the number 20 car get involved in this fight too.
Daniel Earler has just moved up ahead of Adam Watson into 8th place. Jack London is your top am. He's in 22nd. Here's a replay then, and bang! And look at that. Look at the wheel movement there. To hold on to that was absolutely incredible. Cedric and Davidson are going to continue their fight, but this time for 10th and 11th places, as they go onto the hangar straight. The next best am, by the way, after 22nd Jack London, is Tom Stanley in 27th and Aidan Carter in 29th. So that's how things stand right now in your top 3 in your different classes. But with 5 minutes remaining in this race, somehow Adam Tompkins is holding on to the lead, but Dino Lombardi is right there with the race leaders. There's a second covering 1st, 2nd and 3rd.
I gotta wonder at this point what Dino Lombardi is thinking behind the wheel of that number 78 Acura. Is he going to try and push the issue here? Will he try and go for a move on Alex Cohen for 2nd? And will he try and go for the 2nd move on Adam Tompkins for the lead in this race? Those two nearly coming up blows in the Acuras, heading off through turn number 4 a few moments ago. But Dino Lombardi in that number 78 Grid and Go Esports Acura, he is certainly feeling good about his chances at this point in the race, but I think at this point he's maybe thinking about those two coming to blows and allowing them to let the race fall into Lombardi's lap.
if you're going to make the move, you make the move now. If you're Tino Lombardi, and try and work your way through to give yourself a shot at the race win. But right now, Tompkins is doing an incredible job. Yeah, the greatest motorsport commentator, in my opinion, Murray Walker, he had a line that he used to always say, catching is one thing, passing is quite another, and we are seeing a perfect example of that here with Adam Tompkins and Alex Cohen. And Dino Lombardi right there, ready to pounce. If he could get a good run here, he could certainly make it up into second place.
What we're seeing right now is a game of cat and mouse between these drivers. They're trying to figure out where their strengths and weaknesses are. They're trying to plan in the final 2 laps of this race where to pounce, where to try and attack, where to be a bit more on the calm side is the real thing that these drivers are thinking about at this point in time. Dino Lombardi is seeing the 2 drivers in front of him and trying to think, when can I get this move done? Lombardi certainly confident in his pace. I mean, he set the fast lap of the race and finished P2 in race number 1 this evening, and the one driver who finished in front of him, that being Alexander Davidson in that number 1 car, he's well farther back. He doesn't have to think of the same drivers he thought about in race 1. He doesn't have the same conditions that he had in race 1. This is a total flip for Dino Lombardi. So at this point in time, I think he's trying to size up what these 2 are going to do with Tompkins and Cohen.
Oh, that's the opportunity. Lombardi to the inside of the loop. He's got the inside for entry onto the Wellington straight. Absolutely neck and neck between Lombardi and Cohen. Cohen gets a better run out of the corner though, but it's the inside line into Brooklands for Lombardi. Cohen's trying to hold it around the outside. Now, if you're Tompkins, don't look behind you. Focus forward. Let those 2 fight each other and try and pull away while they're fighting each other.
Yeah, allow those 2 to play all by themselves and just say, hey, thank you very much. I'll take this added lack of pressure and just start driving off into the sunset. Tompkins, though, will he be able to do that? Will these drivers be able to realize, hey, we're going side by side. We're hurting our chances of winning this race. Let's cool it off a little bit for the rest of this second to last lap. And I think they've done that right now. Cohen and Lombardi, they're not side by side anymore. They're single file heading their way through Maggott and Beckett onto the back straightaway for the second to last time in this race, but I think Lombardi has a run heading onto it. He may risk it yet again. Let's see.
Oh, Lombardi got a great slingshot out of Beckett's into Chapel. Neck and neck down into Stowe corner. Now they're going to compromise each other through this right-hander. That's going to allow Tompkins to stay ahead. Neck and neck between the 2 of them as they head into Club Corner. We're about to start the last lap of the race. Still not able to switch places. Lombardi and Cohen stay as they were. And Anders Meyer is joining in. The not hit that curve, Dino. That is not good for your health. And well, Adam Tompkins starts the last lap in the lead of this race by 0.7 of a second ahead of Cohen, Lombardi, Meyer, all together here as they head into Village for the final time today. And look at the move, look at the run from Lombardi down the inside into the loop.
Holy cow, Dino Lombardi trying to get some moves done where he usually wouldn't expect it. Side by side, heading onto the Wellington straight away for the last time in this race. All of this from us, Paul, is music to the ears of Adam Tompkins. He's still pulling away as we ride on board with Anders Meyer in the number 20 Racing Lab Esports Mustang. Let's see if he can get a move done on these 2 as the view completely disappears, heading through Brooklands for the last time under green flag conditions. These 2 still side by side. Holy cow.
This is a little bit of contact rubbing through the exit of Luffield into Woodcote. Now it's into Cops Corner. Anders Meyer is sat there thinking, where do I go, chaps? Well, Lombardi trying to get holds on to it. Magnificent stuff from the guys at the front of the field. Adam Tompkins has pulled away from all of this fighting. It's down to the final few corners. Eric Rasev has joined this fight now for the final step of the podium. Well, the second and third steps of the podium. Adam Tompkins right there, started in pole position. He has led every single lap of this race for Altitude Esports. Can he hang on for a great race win. Meanwhile, we've got this fight for second place. Cohen and Lombardi. Daniel Ola is fighting with Alex Davidson and Adam Watson further down. Meanwhile, Lombardi to the outside, cut back to the inside. No, that's not going to happen. But Adam Tompkins for Altitude Esports, he takes the win here in round 6 of the World GT Championship. Who finishes second? It's Alex Cohen, and third, it's Dino Lombardi.
That was a brilliant finish, and I thought for a brief period of time that Anders Meyer was nearly going to get a move done on Dino Lombardi coming to the checkered flag. Wasn't close enough at the end of the day, but it was still practically nothing. Razor-thin margins at the front of the field. Adam Watson won it in the Pro-Am category, and Jack Ludden behind the wheel, the number 36 Ferrari, is going to end up winning it in the AM class, finishing P22 overall. But holy cow, Paul, that was a brilliant race, and Tompkins comes out with the checkered flag
with a thoroughly deserved race win. Yes, he started on pole position, but so what? He did a magnificent job holding on to that race win. Adam Watson for Altitude Esports by Sim Stickers, another Pro-Am win for him here today. Brilliant stuff, and well, hats off to all of the drivers here. This is how close it was then at the end. And my goodness, Ron, we couldn't have had a better grandstand finish.
That was a brilliant battle that we had to keep tabs on for the final, probably the last 15 minutes of that race. These drivers started to battle and continued to battle all the way up until the checkered flag. Look at that, they're being and banging doors, coming right to the line. That, I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, was Anders Meyer in the Mustang, who ended up finishing fourth as a result of all that, and Eric Rosseth. Those two were the ones banging doors right to the line, and that was a brilliant finish for the final spots on the podium and the final spots in the top 5. What a fantastic race.
Well, let's take a breath here and let's take a look at the provisional race results then for round number 6 of the World GT Championship Season 17. Adam Tompkins for Altitude Esports by 3M. What a race win it was for him. Lights to flag, he takes the checkered flag ahead of Alex Cohen and Dino Lombardi, just 0.3 of a second separating those two. 0.2 of a second covering Lombardi and Meyer, with a further 1/10 of a second covering Meyer and Rosseth. Unbelievably close stuff, second through to 5th. Lewis Ward 6th ahead of Daniel Ola, who's held on to 7th place. A good couple of top 10 finishes for him. Alex Davidson, well, that contact with Jack Sedgwick cost him in the end, finishing in 8th place. Adam Watson for Altitude Esports by Sim Stickers. Great day for them. Pro-Am winner once again for Adam. He finishes ahead of Jack Sedgwick. In 11th place, Bobby Thompson on the recovery drive. He gained 18 places in the end here in the second race, ahead of Lorenzo Castellani and Adam State. Will Guthrie for Full Tilt Motorsport was the second placed Pro-Am driver, 14th overall, ahead of the Atomic Esports Jack Osborne, 15th place, third in class. Andy Shield then ahead of Richard Simner, Taylor Lane, Michael Gray and Phil Samways, rounding out your top 20. 21st then for Alessandro Toccio, with Jack London, the E-Datum driver, winning in AM in 22nd overall. Michael Evdoka, after that issue at Luffield, finishes 23rd ahead of Andy Jones and David Vey. Tom Stanley then for Prasanna Nomad. He finishes second place in AM, 26th overall, ahead of Jonathan Walker, Dan Blackwell. Aidan Carter for Ernid Racing finishes third in class in 29th place, and in 30th place was Jesse Payne Wilkins. Ben Gregory then in 31st ahead of Josh Boot, with Dan McCauley and Simon Andre Livingston. Alessio Bonino in 35th ahead of Nikolai Agard. Paul Webster, Aidan Young, Kristada Thasang and Tim Perry, who had that incident with David Baker earlier on. Ben Altry at Yaman Pruis, Luca Monroe and David Baker, with Adam Hedgecock, Cameron DeBastos and Alistair Pollock, the last of the drivers on the lead lap. Stephen Koenig 1 lap down, and then those that did not finish: Leo Tregurtha, Chris Chatterton, as well as Alex Schmidt and Joe Newman. And we have got time for a couple of interviews, and I think it's only right if I could actually grab him out of the booth at the waiting room for Adam Tompkins. Once again, I don't have the ability to move Adam Tompkins into the booth there, Ron. So hopefully we can get that sorted and get to hear from Adam.
Yeah, I'm keeping my fingers crossed as well, because I cannot drag him into the commentary booth either. These drivers are a bit too slick for us to grab him in and drag him into the broadcast booth. May need to tempt some of these drivers with, like, I don't know, a carrot on the stick, maybe some nice, like, chocolate chip, or maybe some oatmeal raisin cookies. Oh no, I haven't had food today, so that could be skewing my judgment a teeny tiny bit, but it would be very nice to have a chat with Adam Tompkins, because he put together a mighty drive in that second race to be able to hold on to that. It was the top 18 that inverted for the starting grid, and he was able to hold on to it all the way to the checkered flag. It just worked out absolutely beautifully for him. So we'll stall here for a couple of moments as Adam Tompkins is hopefully going to be joining us in the commentary booth in the not too distant future. We'll say to anyone tuning into this broadcast here of the World GT Championship on iRacing here on RaceSpotTV today, how about you hit that like button and subscribe, and hit the notification bell as well, so you never miss out on any of the racing action.
You've gone full YouTuber mode there, Ron. That's
I mean,
we never go full YouTuber mode.
I mean, okay, in fairness, before I started this commentary stuff back in March of 2023, I did do a lot of YouTube stuff. It wasn't successful YouTube stuff, mind you. I'm pretty sure most of the broadcasts here on RaceSpot get a heck of a lot more views than my videos used to. So, I mean, I think it was 3,700 is my current subscriber count. So I do have some experience in that regard, so I will use that as my excuse and my through line. So
well, while we're still waiting for this, by the way, I did notice this in the YouTube chat. Richard Simner, happy 7th wedding anniversary, Richard, and the good lady who married him. She still let him race on anniversary night. I know so many different relationships that you would not get that at all. So yeah, very congratulations, Richard, and his good missus.
Yeah, that is you can tell he's definitely proud right there. Married the right one. Cheers, chaps. Yeah, thank you very much for sharing that, Richard. So happy wedding anniversary to Richard in that number 42 Mustang. So that's a nice little story to mention here on the air. I'm not sure if we will be able to have a chat with any of the drivers, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame, because I want to have a chat with some of these drivers who put on some really good performances all throughout. But I guess I guess they're allergic to the commentary booth. Oh no, I think we may need to up our snack game here, Paul.
No, I think it's not that. It's that we don't have the ability to move them into the commentary booth. So that's the problem there. So we will have to wrap, because we are running short on time here. So, I mean, Ron, we're going into the first of the season breaks now. We have a week off next week before we head to Interlagos, and from one classic Grand Prix circuit to another, Interlagos should give us some tremendous racing.
Oh, Interlagos is going to be a fabulous race for this series in 2 weeks' time. That track, it's got such a fantastic flow to it. It is one of my favorite Grand Prix circuits personally. So on February 24th, when this series returns here to RaceSpotTV, all you viewers tuning into this series are going to be in for one heck of a show down there in Brazil.
Well, that is all that we've got time for today. What a day of tremendous racing. Congratulations to Alex Davidson for the first race win. Second race win, though, thoroughly deserved by Adam Tompkins. From myself, Paul Smith, from Ron Mounds, and from Hugo Luis here on the broadcast, it's goodbye from us all here, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time for the World GT Championship.